Hey guys, so the gear today, Mystic Water. It is a finicky soap base for a lot of people. In my mind, the times I've used it, as best as I can recollect, that's what I was doing there. Um, it gave me surprisingly good lathers, um, and so I've always held it in high regard. But recently, a friend of mine, HD Shaves on YouTube, there, I sent him some of the Mystic Water that I had, and he did some lathers with it, and it didn't quite live up to my memory of how good the lather was for him. Now, we do lather differently. He's a face latherer a lot of the time, and I'm almost always a bowl latherer. And so it could be that this just lathers better for people who do it in a bowl, or maybe my longer method might somehow be magic for this base. It does seem like a lot of people have trouble with this base, um, but it also could be that my own memory is deceiving me a little bit, and that maybe it's not as good as it is in my mind. So we're going to revisit Mystic Water. All right, we're going to use a blade, the Perma-Sharp stainless. I have not tried it in the Belmont Deluxe. This is a Gillette New, a vintage Gillette New, and it is one of the Deluxe group, and the specific nomenclature for this one's the Belmont. It's just like the normal New, but the normal New is kind of a gold, and the silver means it's the Belmont. It seems from my research. And the splash at the end of everything is going to be some City Slicker. I hope that agrees with the Marrakesh. The brush for today is one of my favorites. It's a Declaration Grooming B13 knot, 28 millimeter, with a Dogwood Handcrafts handle, and Briar Brushworks did the wooden part. And it's a real treasure. And I've had that soaking for several minutes. So this is very different than the blade I've used in the Belmont before. It's got several uses on it already, about 8 or so. And the Perma-Sharp is quickly becoming a blade I enjoy in a lot of razors. Sharp, but not quite so edgy that it feels aggressive. And the Gillette Platinum is the only other blade, since this is a fairly new razor to me, is the only other blade I've used in this razor. And it felt a little on the aggressive side. It didn't feel nearly as nice as my other Deluxe, my regular Deluxe razors. So let's just see how the Perma-Sharp does. All right, this is that Criterion handle that you see. I've got two Deluxes that are the standard. One of them looks exactly like this, with the Criterion handle, the kind of two-piece design, with the top cap having the longer bolt. Then I have another one that is a slightly less wide head, and it has a standard three-piece design where the base plate and the top cap can be put on about any handle out there. But it's a little bit more aggressive, I assume, because of the narrower cap means more blade exposure, perhaps. And so this one was acting more like that one, even though this one's 17 millimeters between the inside of the open combs, like the smoother one is. So it's a little bit of a mystery, but maybe a different blade is going to help me out. I do have probably 3 days of growth going on. Been crazy busy. So here is the Marrakesh, and you can see how it is not wet at all. We're starting from a fully dry, and it's probably been a year since I've used it. Yeah, nice and spicy. Kind of some warm spices. Exotic, yes, but not super exotic, you know. One of the tips as I get my face wet, one of the tips with Mystic Water that I always tell people, and I told HD, was to just watch out with it and don't come at it with a brush just full of water. Because A lot of people have gotten it really wet, bubbly and airy, and it's really hard to pull it back from that point it seems, and that's the problem that a lot of people have with it. I'm going to be taking that same approach today. I'm going to do my usual method. I haven't used this in a while, so 30 to 45 seconds is probably a time range that's going to be about the right load time, probably more toward the 45 just to be on the safe side. I do have my large size lather bowl here. Link to it in the description if you're curious about that. So I'm going to take a lightly wet brush. Again, not going to come at it with a lot of water. I'm going to shake out a lot of the, this is my normal technique generally. So I mean, yeah, sure, there are some drops I could shake out more, but let's just go at it here. 45 seconds. Oh, and the 0 mark is going to start right around there to make it easy for me to count. And what we'll do is we'll just watch it and we'll see what it looks like after as we get close to the 30-second mark. Well, we definitely got some early bubbles. That's good. Got a little bit of overflow right there. Coming to the 30-second mark. Just to be on the safe side, I'm gonna, because this is a knot with very soft tips. And so one of the approaches that HD took was to, start loading. And there we go, that's 45. Start loading, and then as it needed some water, you add a little bit more water. You pause loading, add a little bit of water, keep going at it, Okay, now notice there's, just like most soaps, there's a little bit of the bubbly stuff, but then there's a lot of other creamy stuff that's not really all that bubbly, and so I don't believe that I came at it with too much water right away. Doing a little pre-wash here. All right. One of the issues HD was having was that on the first pass he'd have the lather pretty good looking, but then in the second pass, especially toward the end of the pass, what he had on his face would kind of start to dissipate just a little bit. It would kind of get foamy instead of being a nice creamy, right? And with so many other options out there, you just you don't need to do that. So I'm curious because he's a good latherer. He mostly does face lathering, and so if there's an issue with how he put together his lather, it could be because maybe somehow this soap needs more mix time, and so that's not something that a lot of face latherers like to do. Now he said, and see that to his credit, he did mention that even though it was a little foamy, it still was very slick. And so it's a performance lather either way. But I don't remember having any dissipation issues, any airy, foamy issues when I was working it. So I'm just curious what kind of lather I will get. Well, it's looking really good right now. It's not glossy. It's only glossy a small amount. Could it be that this, if I've said this already, I'm sorry, but could it be that this, to get to be that exact right emulsion, it takes more time, more brush work? He also was using a synthetic. I'm using a large Badger brush. Whether that would make a difference, I don't know. You wouldn't think so. And as you see, the lather's developing nicely, and so coming at it with my method of not too much water is, again, seeming to hit just right today. And once you get that introductory amount kind of mixed in and stabilized, then you can add water like you would normally. But there are definitely a group of shavers out there whose technique involves pulling that soaked brush up out of the water and giving it one or two shakes, and then it still has a lot of water at that point, and then they'll take that right to the soap. And while with a lot of soaps that's just fine, there's nothing wrong with that technique, I think unless you're using Mystic water, I don't think it handles that much soap very well, that much water very well. Now, even right now, if HD were to, I'm going to send him this video for sure. He is a subscriber to my channel. I enjoy his comments so often that I'm sure he's going to see this. And one of the things is what we may find out if I do end up with an amazing lather is that with his technique, it just requires more time than he'd like to maybe put in to his lather, and that's obviously very reasonable. Not a lot of guys have tons of time to put together a lather. The couple things I like about Mystic Water is that there are lots and lots of scents to choose from. She's got a nice sample program, not quite as good as Stirling, but a lot better than everybody else. It's a little clunky, but it's generous. And she has a lot of different products in her scents, but the problem is a lot of her scents are low in strength, and that's why I don't have a large repository of her scents like I do Stirling, for instance, or Barrister and Man. They're just not as much strength there. I think I ordered about 8 or so samples from her, 9 maybe. Got them in, and about half of them were strong enough to where I would like them. And then about half of those were maybe a little too feminine or something like that. And these were even ones that I picked out from having what appeared to be a good scent description, that would be along my favorite lines. But it just didn't work out. There were only a few of them that really kind of ended up making it to the end of the obstacle course, if you will. So right now, this lather looks terrific. We've got some nice hydration going on there, some heaviness due to the water. You can see the way it moves. It still has some structure to it. See, look, it's still holding onto its structure a little bit. And so I guarantee you that is not going to dissipate. I just could not believe that it would. Let's take a little feel of it. See if it feels airy, You know what, why don't we go ahead and use this? See how it feels on the face? Yeah, I feel a nice light creaminess. Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to mix it for just a little bit longer. But I think it's ready to go. Tell you what, if you are a person who likes low strength scents, especially if you have a little bit of time to put together a lather, then Mystic Water might be your gold mine. The cologne scents from Stirling I find are often kind of low strength as well. And there are other companies that really will be your friend in terms of a low strength shaving soap. So I think we're looking good. Let's give it a shot. face how wet it needs to be here. Maybe I will discover, maybe mine will also kind of dissipate. We'll get a little foamy. And HD had some really good points in his video. See, because while I may shave with something, a soap for a day, when he brings you a shave, he often has used it the whole week. Or for, I don't think he shaves every day, but every other day for a week. So he's already put a few different shaves into it. And I really like that, because then what you're going to get from his videos is an opinion that's based on a larger sample size, you know, than just one shave. Oh, and look at the shape of the lather right there. That tells me I could add more water, perhaps, if I wanted to, but we're just going to kind of keep on going here and just see what happens. See what the lather turns into. One of the things he mentioned was he did bowl lather with one of the samples that I sent him. And what he really liked was kind of an overloading approach, like the kind that IMSMS does. And he loaded for a lot longer than what you saw me do. I did 45 seconds, but he did a lot longer. And so if I'm able to get a better lather with less loading time, you know, that could tell that it's just a part of the process, you know. Just part of my process somehow that's different than what he does. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so yeah, right now I do, it's not dissipating or anything, but it doesn't feel super creamy. But it's like a lot of the older lathers. So what we're going to do, let's see if we can turn it from good to great by tweaking it a little bit with some driplets of water on the brush. Sometimes that can tweak that dryness into that creamy emulsion that you want. I did not wash my face before this, and so the oils in my skin could be playing with the lather as well. Brush feels awesome. This is a really great brush to play around with your lather, because you just really enjoy anything you do with it on your face. Well, that definitely gave me more quantity. All right. But as you saw, there wasn't really anything difficult about whipping that lather up, was there? The only thing I did was just mix it up before I start adding water, and with whatever was the little bit of water that was in the brush, just kind of homogenize that first. HD made the comment that maybe this soap doesn't really offer users anything if you're already using something like Barrister and Man or Declaration Grooming. You know, there's not really a reason you need to go out and buy some Mystic Water unless you just want to try your hand at the finicky soap base. And it's a nice light cream feeling. with very good slickness. I was definitely right to add a little bit more water there. And the blade here is a much better match. The Belmont with the Perma-Sharp. Nice scent. It's definitely around me, like a 5 out of 10 in terms of strength. I like that. All right. Second pass. I have a pretty wet face that I'm putting this on. So yeah, this is a very nice lather, but it's not comparable. It's not top tier. It's not really how I remember it. And so maybe I was just doing things differently back then. I don't know that she changed her formula, but it's still really very nice. It feels good on the face. To me, it's not getting foamy or light or anything like that. Cross grain now. Well, I was a little disappointed in the first use of this Belmont razor because it was a neat little piece that I hadn't actually heard of before in the new Deluxe family. So I was looking forward to using it. And then to have it be a little bit on the aggressive side with the Gillette Platinum was discouraging, but looks like that was just the Platinum. The Perma-Sharp is very nice, even taking down that first pass of 3 days of growth with no problem and with a pretty high degree of comfort. There we go. Secondary slickness, not a whole lot. This kind of reminds me a little bit about maybe, I think it's a little bit better than the old school chiseled face, the OG, the normal tallow chiseled face. Kind of that whole family, that whole grouping of soaps. It's not quite top tier, but does a great job. This one feels very good on the brush, feels good in my fingers, but it's not quite top tier. I definitely wouldn't have a problem using it on a daily basis. See, it does give me a nice kind of luxurious creamy experience here. It's not quite how I remember it in my mind. And then that little bit, that 45 seconds of loading, and we've got another 3 passes at least. So I think, based on the video, that my method of putting together the lather is probably a little bit more what this soap needs than what HD Shaves was doing. However, looks like maybe the lather itself is not quite as awesome as I remember it. And so I think we're kind of both coming together a little bit toward the middle on this one. Kind of a little bit better than average in terms of secondary slickness here. There are definitely other soaps where you just don't feel any slickness at all when you come in after the fact. But it's better than that. but it's not as good as some that just really, you come back after it and you can still feel it. You don't have to smear any around, to get that smooth feeling, that creamy feeling back. So here we are after the fact. Face feels great. Got a good rinse on. I've got no irritation. Got a great close shave. And let's look at the kind of viscosity of the lather here. Pretty much still what we had before there. See, I can still kind of wiggle some loose. And so I don't really believe it's changed very much. I don't think that it got foamy with me, but he is a face latherer, so that's just a different experience. There we go. Well, Mystic Water. Something else they got going for them, like Stirling, they provide, last time I checked, refill pucks. And that's great if you're a conservationist, if you already have tubs that you want to use, you just don't want an influx of plastic tubs coming in that are going to go in the trash. Then a company that offers refills like Tobacco and Stirling, Mystic Water, the hard refills, of course, like some of those hard soaps that come in a cardboard box are going to be good options as well. But Mystic Water and Stirling then provide those, the Crope refill pucks at a slightly lower cost, and I think it's a great thing to do for the community. But yeah, I don't think the lather is as good as Stirling, at least this one here wasn't, and that's probably representative. I think that's close enough to what HD Shaves was getting, and he was using probably an older soap. He was using Cup of Joe. He did try a more modern one, but he just didn't put that one on air because it wasn't a scent that he was really enjoying about, and I think that was just part of his use, then show the knowledge type approach, and it was early on in that series. So let's see. I think the City Slicker might go pretty well with the Marrakesh. Let's just hope so. Have a nice hydrated face. Hopefully this alcohol aftershave is not gonna bring up any irritation of any consequence. That's a good scent. I like that. All right. Oh, that is so good. Okay. I ended up using about 17 milliliters of water. So that's not a whole lot. We ended up with a good bit of soap. And I'm not saying that was the perfect lather with this soap with MWS, but I think it was pretty darn close. And so I feel like I've given it a good representation. And there we go. There we go. I think the cost is pretty nice. And so I think it only starts to fade. And this is something HD mentioned as well, was the cost. Nice is just not inflated like some of the other Cropes out there are. A lot of her scents are not all that sophisticated, probably a lot of pre-blend use, that kind of thing, would be my guess. But Stirling is probably going to give you better performance for similar cost, if not maybe slightly better cost. And so if Stirling weren't in the market, they may have a better audience for those people who want a good soap for a good value kind of thing with lots of choices. They may have a better audience there. He did mention it's a soap base for several years ago is kind of when it was really good, and I think that's probably pretty accurate. But we've had just a lot of makers come out and just bring better stuff to the market, is what he was saying, and I would agree with that too. And they haven't really changed it too much. I mean, I kind of think they don't need to change it too much in a sense, because it was beautiful, it worked well. But yeah, sure, you kind of might want to have something that felt a little creamier, perhaps. I'm of course not saying that they need to try to push something toward that moisturizing end of the spectrum that a lot of the soaps are doing. That's definitely not my jam. But if they had something, a mix that was just kind of a little creamier, that took the water and would have that density with the water, you know, and have that same look that you just saw me have, but just have it be a little on the creamier side when it took that much water. I don't know what in the world soapers do to make that happen, but some of them do. They get it just right. Um, yeah, it's possible they may have been left behind in a sense, but if you do find a smell that you like from them that's in the soap, then one of the cool things is I think they have a lot of other products that you can get that same smell in. And there's some value to be said for that, for sure. All right, so that was Mystic Water today. The Marrakesh is definitely working really well with the Stirling City Slicker. Oh, really nice story here and a movement and a lot of common bits. It was kind of luck that I happened upon these two, and it just seems to be a very fortuitous mix. So, also very happy to report a great shave with the Belmont. The Perma-Sharp was a wonderful match for it, and again, here's what everything looks like. You've got the knob that reaches up to touch the long-ish bolt from the top cap, and of course this isn't designed to come off, so you have to use this handle with this razor. Perma-Sharp, a nice one with that new deluxe Belmont. And since it's one of my favorite brushes, this brush was phenomenal. It showed the lather in its best light, felt big and soft and comfy, no scritch or hint of anything like that. But it mixed up the lather well, and as you saw, I got plenty of lather up in 45 seconds. Top notes for the brush as well. Well, there we go, guys. HD Shaves, thank you so much for trying out Mystic Water. I'm really glad that you did. When he did his Shave of the Day posts on Reddit leading up to his video, I was definitely reading those on a regular basis, and I was enjoying watching him discover this soap and play around with it, even if it didn't land in such a nice spot as it did in my memory, you know. And so, yeah, it turns out if the formula is the same, then what's likely happened is my memory was just a little bit too frosty and sugary and fantastical regarding this particular soap base. And that's the way it goes sometimes. But there we go. Mystic Water, wonderful Belmont, wonderful brush. I'm going to enjoy the City Slicker now for a few more hours. Take care now. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves, HD Shaves. I highly recommend his channel. I'm sure you're watching. Thanks so much there, bud, and appreciate your video. I enjoyed it a lot the other day. Bye.